This is worth paying attention to for the Ohio State Buckeyes, as Rivals has revealed that there is a flip that can happen for the Ohio State Buckeyes from an ACC school over to Ohio State of a local Ohio kid, and we got to break it all down. So what's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Columbus Football 365. If you're an Ohio State football fan, hit that subscribe button. We are churning out Ohio State news, and we are getting hyped for the start of this new season. And the news for today is recently Rivals logged a prediction for the Ohio State Buckeyes to flip three-star offensive lineman Laundry Brede, which would give them another offensive lineman for the 2026 recruiting class. This coming from Scarlet and Game. And they also said if Ohio State does add Brede, that would give them 5 offensive linemen for this class. That's quite a lot of recruits for one class, but none of them are 5-star recruits. Still, the Buckeyes need more depth up front after years of neglecting the proper numbers in recruiting classes. Bowen is doing the best to replenish that depth in just his first year as the offensive line coach. He is doing the best that he can to bring in the players that he believes can develop into solid starters down the line. He will eventually be able to land blue chip recruits once Ross Bjork starts using NIL collectives again. So, just 1 year after Ohio State sends Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons to the league in the first round, they of course need to go ahead and replenish their offensive line recruits because, I know they're not going to step in immediately and make a difference, but you want to make sure they are always bringing in the top recruits that you can. So down the line, you keep your roster stacked as well as possible. Let's talk about really obvious stuff. But if Laundry Brede was to recommit away from NC State to the Ohio State Buckeyes, he would join some of the top recruits in the country like Chris Henry, Blaine Bradford, and Caden Dixon-Wyatt, as well as our right now number 1 ranked offensive tackle according to 247 Sports. Jeez. Wow. Made a lot of videos today. Sam Greer is currently the number 1 ranked offensive tackle for Ohio State, and Laundry Brede would not be a higher ranked tackle than Sam Greer, but you want to make sure that you have as much depth as possible at the offensive line position, mostly because these guys can come in as either a guard or a tackle, and they can move around and find new positions should your offense need it. Let's say Ohio State brings in 2 really good tackles, or they bring in 3 really good tackles, and they go, this third guy is so good that we can't keep him off the football field. So you move him to guard, and you say, we're going to put out the best 5 offensive linemen that we possibly can. That's what you're going to do. The Big Ten is an offensive line league, just like the SEC. The difference between the SEC and the Big Ten is everyone in the Big Ten wants to run the football. Does that affect the way that you want to go out and recruit guys? Are you looking more for maulers and run blockers instead of the pass protectors? Really that doesn't seem to be the best idea ever. You're probably still just looking for the biggest, strongest guys that you possibly can. I got to tip my cap to recruiters when it comes to high school recruiting because it's kind of a mess. It's really tough to project who is going to be the next best, big thing in college football. At the NFL level, it's a lot easier because in college football, the level of competition is almost the same for everyone across the board. And if someone is facing a lower level of competition, it's obvious. And just by the name of the school or the conference, that they are facing lower levels of competition. When you're watching a highlight tape for a high school prospect, it's so difficult to determine how good the other team is. And yes, 24/7's rankings are very helpful, but you want to be making those decisions yourself. You're not going to rely on other people's rankings to recruit for your own school. So you have to make sure that you're going out and just sending out as many guys as possible and making sure you can find the next big thing when it comes to that offensive line. And Ohio State has to make sure they keep running through recruiting new guys for our offensive line, just making whoever the quarterback's going to be, of course, probably wouldn't be Julian Sayin by the time Laundry could get in here, but whoever that quarterback is for the Ohio State Buckeyes, have to make sure he is as well protected as possible. And this is a little bit interesting. One more reason why this is interesting is because this guy is from inside the state of Ohio, from Mentor, Ohio. If you're going to be a great state school, you have to make sure that you are recruiting well in your state. And I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous to say that about Ohio State because Ohio State, the brand is Ohio State and everyone knows about it growing up. And I understand this sentiment is more realistic when you're talking about a recruiting battle between like Kansas and Kansas State. A lot of years, though the team that's going to be better is whichever school was better at recruiting in the state of Kansas a couple of years ago. But when it comes to Ohio State and the state of Ohio, the top options are the Ohio State and then Ohio, which, funny enough, that's actually the matchup for this weekend. Like I said, a lot of those players on the Ohio team want to play for Ohio State, and they grew up wanting to play for Ohio State. So you want to make sure that you got to be a little bit extra prepared, because you know they're going to come in with just a little bit extra of a chip on their shoulder and want to play really, really hard against a school that a lot of them wanted to go to originally. But so it's a little bit confusing why NC State is now the recruit for this guy out of Mentor, Ohio. You have to imagine that, growing up in Ohio, he had to have seen a ton of, he has to be, maybe he doesn't grow up rooting for the Ohio State Buckeyes, but a lot of people around him definitely did. And Ohio State is, pretty much the number one sports team when it comes to Ohio. So would love to see, hopefully that gives you a little bit more pull when it comes to pulling this guy, even if he is only a 3-star guard. You don't turn him down just because he's only a 3-star. You can't only recruit 5-star recruits. That's not realistic for any school, no matter who you are. Even if you're, Georgia, Bama. I mean, Ohio State would do that if it was possible, but it is absolutely not possible to go out and just recruit all the best guys. So we're going to figure out how this recruitment goes. Currently, I believe I said it before, but he's committed to NC State University. We're going to see where Bredesen ends up committing to. Hopefully, he comes to the Ohio State University, joins this 2026 recruiting class. Is already looking pretty good. Not as good as it can be. Not as good as I'm sure it will end up being. There's still more time. We're still a couple months out from February, I believe 2nd. This is deadline of National Signing Day, but it's in early February, whenever it is. That's coming up soon. Can't wait to see how the rest of the recruiting plays out for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But if you stuck around this long in the video, appreciate you for watching it. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Buckeyes.